Hi, it's Jordan with a video for you today about the inner child, about man-woman attraction or sexual polarity and the emotional tension and chemistry that that creates, and also about the meaning of staying centered and grounded. And so you've probably heard about all these topics before. You've probably read into them already. Some of you have even explored quite deeply into each of these. But what I want to do in the video is to bring them all together and to draw a picture of something that I see happening time and time again with men when they're in the presence of the truly beautiful goddess women that they really, really desire. So I want to make it very concrete and clear for you. And this video's got a lot of meaning for me because this is really my story. So I'll share a bit about my story and my past of kind of cleaning myself up and maturing myself so I can have the kind of beautiful woman that I desire. But it's also the story of about 80 or 90% of the men that I work with as well. It just seems to be this timeless, commonplace mixture of dynamics that happen. So let's go back in time a little bit. If you're watching this channel, you probably love women, and even if you're well into your 40s, 50s, 60s, you probably still love a beautiful face or some amazing curves, and there's probably part of you that is always simmering with excitement when there's the possibility of a beautiful woman coming into the space or coming into the room. And that's definitely my reality. It's definitely my story. I had my first crush since I was 5 years old. I was at a holiday park with my family, and there was this little blonde girl with big curly, wispy, almost albino hair playing in the corner with some other boys. And I wanted to go and play with her. I was so smitten. I was staring at her for hours, and my family was like, just go and say hello, introduce yourself, tell her your name. And I wouldn't do it. It was my first case of approach anxiety, as they would later call it. So I've been in love with girls. I've been in love with women since I was a little boy. And the plus side that there is this boyish part of me that just loves the feminine form is that every time I've really loved or had really beautiful, loving feelings for a woman in my life, they have always liked me, and they've always stuck around, and they've always wanted to spend time with me. They felt that I was cute. They felt that I was sweet. The way that my kind of eyes would dart around my face as if scanning every time I stood before them. Had a lot of the women that I loved really feel that they were the most beautiful being on the planet when they were in my presence. And so these are great things. These women wanted to keep me around. But I think you can imagine where this sentence ends. They would keep me around as friends and not want to be lovers. Or on some of the occasions where we were lovers for a little while, it didn't go for too long because they would ultimately pass me over for a man who had it together or had his shit together in a more substantial way. So I had the habit of attracting a variety of women throughout my life, but the women that I really pined for with all my heart always felt a little bit out of my reach, and I couldn't really put my finger on what was happening when I interacted with these women. I think I'd just be so overcome and flustered by the emotions that I would feel that I wouldn't really have much flow or skill or control or just easy, open centeredness around these women. So that was what happened. Yeah. So there's a good side and a downside to this inner boy inside all of us that loves women. I once had a client come to me, and we were in a party, something around 11 p.m., midnight, and it was a party in Romania where we do our annual conference, and the room was just packed with stunning women, like Eastern European, Romanian model type, tall, beautiful. The way they were dressed up was insane. And so my client said to me, listen, Jordan, I really want to know what happens to me when I speak to an outrageously beautiful woman, because I've never had feedback and I can't track it. All I know is that I'm really excited when I speak to women like this. Can you watch me for a few minutes? And I was like, sure. And we got one of the most stunning, knockout, intimidating women in the entire room to come over to him. And I introduced them to each other. And then I kind of took a big step back and observed and watched my client do his thing and just see what happened. And it was extraordinary because right in front of my eyes, I could see this pattern play out. And essentially what happened was it was like his entire energy or his entire life force kind of left his body, came out of his heart, came out of his face, and his eyes were open like this, and his mouth was kind of ajar. And it was like something of him, like his soul, had kind of left his body and was hanging in midair between them. And he looked at her with absolute wonder. Absolute wonder. But it was a kind of wonder of a man that's not fully there, right? So a lot of his kind of awareness and him, whoever he is, kind of left his body and was just suspended in the space between them, to the point where it was like you almost want to slap him and say, dude, like, get back. Like, where are you going? And I watched the interaction for a couple of minutes, and she was charming and sweet, and then it ended. She walked off and did something else. And after she left, I saw him kind of in this days of having seen and been in the presence of real beauty, but also not fully with it, like a little bit away with the fairies. So he asked me what I saw, and I told him, I said, dude, can you feel your feet right now? And he's like, what feet? What do you mean? I'm like, my friend, do you feel your legs right now? And it takes him quite a while for him to register that he has things like feet and legs and hips and guts and a belly and a heart and a face. And I told him the feedback. I was like, dude, it's clear that you love women, but it's like all of you escapes and hangs in the air in that moment. And it was a case of the adorable little boy, the adorable inner child within him that loves women, just escaping from him, hijacking his consciousness and hijacking his sense of awareness and his sense of control, and running the show. So that this is a man who's successful on his own 2 feet, that runs a business essentially, that has, financially taken care of himself. He's traveled around the world and done a number of things. This is an adult man. But there was no real adult man in the moment when he was talking to her. Like, God bless him, the little boy took over. And of course, the women of the world felt this. So that's, in essence, what I see happening time and time and again. The inner child in us seizes and hijacks our higher capabilities in the presence of beauty. And what seems to happen is, because this boy energy comes out of the space, into the space between us and the woman, there's no longer a father figure or an adult in us that can take care of that little boy. And it's like the little boy, the responsibility for this energy of this lost boy who can't fully stand and take care of himself, the responsibility gets placed with the woman. And so the woman loves this because the youthful brightness of this boy evokes all of her best mothering qualities. And she wants to take care of him. And she wants to say thank you that he's been so gracious and sweet to me as a woman. And so she holds and mothers him a little bit. And she will hold your heart, and she will be sweet to you, and she will say affirmative things to you, and she will want to be in relationship with you and be a friend to you. But it's almost like you're giving her full responsibility of your emotional standing. She has to hold you and comfort you and mummy you a little bit. And what that means is that as you're not able to take full conscious grasp and holding of your emotional self in her presence, she does that work for you. And it leaves no space for her to surrender into the masculine man that you are. So she flourishes in her motherly capacity. She thinks you're sweet. She loves you. But there's no space for her to kind of melt and surrender and engage in this man and woman attraction play of sexual polarity. She's instead occupied with holding you. So the work, and this took a long time for me. It wasn't until well into my 30s that I could spot this pattern happening and really have a good hold and grasp over it in the moment, not theoretically, but actually do this in the moment. And it's taken a while to really learn how to feel when I'm attracted to a beautiful woman, like, how does that feel? And can I enjoy those sensations? And as I'm enjoying those feelings of, sure, I'm not going to get rid of this little boy inside of me. It brings all the delight and play to the situation. But how can I kind of hold that little boy in me that loves women, like the father, the adult me is home, can hold him and stay with my feet on the ground, feeling my feet on the ground, feeling my legs, feeling my body, knowing what my breathing is doing, feeling my own center, holding my child, enjoying the present moment exchange of energies. And a lot of energy gets exchanged. If you're stood in the presence of a radiant woman, I don't care what kind of man you are, if you're a little bit open, there's a flood of energy that comes through the system. It's not easy, but to practice staying present, to practice being grounded, and to enjoy my little boy who's loving the moment as well. It's almost as if, imagine, there's a father, secure, solid, and grounded. He knows his place in the world, and he's carrying a little boy, and the little boy loves girls, and the father loves women too. And they're both there in a secure kind of father-son place, enjoying the scene. And from that place, everything starts unfolding and looking very, very different. So in brief, it's really to watch out what parts of your inner child, when you see an attractive woman that just inspires your heart, just run amok and disappear out of you. And can you learn how to hold that and keep your center and keep the posture of the two? So what's been remarkable over the years is that as soon as I have started to slow down in the moment with beautiful women, been able to hold this inner child within me and not escape out of my body, I've noticed that I hold more and more of an open space, and I'm not putting that emotional responsibility onto her anymore. And one of two things seem to happen. When a woman is attracted to me as well, she might go through the same thing. And I'm seeing more and more where in the past I would be pining for and loving this gorgeous girl. Now I'm seeing that beautiful women of the world. It's almost like a little girl part flies out of them and comes into the space between us. And I'm looking at this mature, beautiful, voluptuous, gorgeous woman. And this little girl part comes out and plays, and she almost escapes from herself. And I find that adorable, and I find it cute, and I love to hold the little girl of a woman and just enjoy that moment. And if that happens too much, I also realize that I lose more of an adult attraction, almost a sense of, she's phenomenal, but because her inner child just flies out into the space between us, it feels a little bit wrong to be sexually attracted. And I'm not that sexually attracted. I'm more of a loving father, and I just want to scoop her up and give her kisses, but I don't want to pin her down on the bed and really take her physically, because that's just the wrong thing to do when you're feeling fatherly and that's a young girl. That's just not the right response. And instinctively, the deep psychology and the deep biology within us knows that. And so if she escapes from her woman too much, then I lose adult, mature interest in her. And sometimes our two little children might play around. The other possibility is, as I stand back in my calm, grounded adult space, holding my boy, not throwing him away or denying him or trying to put on a veneer of looking cool and centered and like I'm superior man and got all my shit together, holding the boy, showing the delight come through, grounded. If she's able and capable to do the same, like feel her giddiness and her girliness, but stay strong and true to her womanness, then we're really talking a different type of sexual polarity, attraction, and just a glorious emotional tension. And chemistry can evolve out of that. And that for me is a picture of real adult attraction. And it's not something that is easy and straightforward to grow into. It does take its time, and both men and women have got our work to do. So I hope this has been illuminating and clear. I hope that if you're in the position that I was in some 5, 10, 15 years ago, that just having these names and having this illustration for you can be illuminating and show you where you've got some powerful work that you can do and hopefully save you a whole bunch of time. Because man, you know, I see men in their 50s and men in their 60s, and they see a beautiful woman and the little boy leaps right out, and then they're scratching their head at the end of it where it's like, I adore that woman. I'm so enthused. She seemed to like me, but why does she still just see me as a friend? She wants to be with me, but not devote herself or submit herself and surrender completely to me. She does that with another man. Why can't I break out of this? And I hope you've now got the answer. If you have any questions or want some clarification, just stick it down in the comments. I hope I've made this clear, but I'd be happy to go through and add a little piece if it needs adding. And if you want to do this work, importantly enough, the awareness work with men, the getting in touch with your deep, grounded man who can hold your emotions in your inner parts with awareness, with love, with compassion, with presence, come at the moment. If you want to do that work with beautiful women as well who can trigger this within you and offer you that mirror of when you're popping out or in yourself, then get in touch with me. Click through to my website and fill out a form for coaching, and through some work via Zoom or maybe in some of my live retreats, we can go into this particular theme and dynamic and have you work through it, make sure it's not a problem anymore, but not a problem, but a glorious boon, glorious gift. Because a man who loves women, lets his little boy shine through, who's holding his feet on the ground, that is the exact concoction that all the great women in the world that I've ever known are just dying for in men. All right, so I'm Jordan. Subscribe, and I'll be back with more videos like this very soon.